How's it going, guys? Today we are going to teach you how to set up a tremolo guitar. I got a question about Floyd Rose, so I'm going to teach you what needs to be done with a Floyd Rose, or pretty much any trem on any guitar. So let's get started. Today we're going to be bumping up to the new Pestvic Cobalts. I know the string tension thing of these are a little bit more than what I have on here. These are some hybrids. So we're going to show you what happens when you change the string gauge and what you need to do to keep your trems in tune. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so tools you'll need, especially for something like this, well definitely you're going to need your Floyd Rose locking stuff. This one doesn't have a Floyd, but this is the same one I used to, actually I don't even think I need this one on this guitar, but yeah, you could use it to adjust trem height and all that kind of stuff. This is, it's really hard to find a small one. I have the exact one that goes for this, I'm just not sure where it is, so I have grinded this one down on the tip to have it fit these little adjustment screws, but yeah, and then the Allen wrench. So basically your Allen wrench is to adjust your truss rod. This truss rod is the same width as my trem adjustment screws, all that stuff. So you're going to need a screwdriver for the back of your trem to adjust string tension, or spring tension I should say. And then yeah, so for the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these strings. These are still pretty much new, so I'll put them in this packet's sleeves and you save them as backups. I always recommend it anyway, even if your strings are dull, because if you're at a gig and you break a string, put on a dull string, at least you can finish the gig and replace your strings afterwards. So let's get started. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is take off the strings from these tuners. So just go ahead and detune them all until they're pretty nice and loose. And then we're going to go ahead and unlock them from the back since these are Planet Wave auto trim tuners. So I'm just going to go ahead and loosen these in the back. Loosen them, take off your strings. That's all you need to do. So I always pull these out one at a time, so I can either put them in the sleeve or just have them easy to access when you put them in the package. So a little bit of extra time saves trouble and effort later on, especially at a gig. I usually keep brand new strings on me at a gig, so I'll just finish up the rest. Cool. So one thing I forgot to mention is, just in case you guys ask, this is a yoga mat. I've used it to spray finishes and stuff on. So this one has the outline of the guitar from when I sprayed the back of this one black. You need something to clean some strings, or at least keep them just kind of nice, or clean your fretboard before you change them. Some polish, just to polish up the guitar while the strings are off. I always do that. And then maybe some refreshments, water, or if you want something, it's only 2 calories. So first thing I want to do is buff out this guitar, so I need to get my cloth. Alright, basically just take some swirl free. I'm basically just buffing 2 light glitter coats, got all over my pants, and just pretty much cleaning up any old pick residue, stuff like that. Cool. Should be simple, just a light coat's good enough. Alright, so open up your strings. Apparently these cobalts are coated with that new whole cobalt stuff instead of stainless steel or nickel. It gives you a nice, better enhanced output, greater frequency response, kind of stuff like that. I guess the cobalt's really responsive to the magnets, so I wanted to try them out, especially for the show coming up. So the old strings, I just don't even care to throw them in the sleeves. I just throw the whole thing to this, close that up, throw it in your case, backups. Alright, so now we're just going to go ahead and string it up, get it up kind of to tune, and then we'll do the adjusting from there. This is where it gets kind of tricky. So on your guitar here, I haven't routed the edge or the pick guard to this one yet. You just go through these little holes, there's 6 of them, and you just put your strings right through there. Well, make sure you pull them all the way through. Here's a little ball, all the way in. Do that with all 6 of them. Alright, so I've already done this one. Totally forgot to film. Pro tip that I learned is the less winds you have on your tuners, bad angle, sorry guys, the more stable the tuning will be. I'm not sure how this works, but I kind of live by it because I know it works, or it's worked for me. A lot of people ask, like, how do I know how much string to put through the peg before I tighten it? Something I learned on YouTube is you take your index, curve it at 90, put your middle finger on the 12, now lay the string in your index right there, so it's kind of getting held right there, and then you put it, you kind of tighten it against your finger, and then that's how much slack that you want to put on your strings when you put it through your pegs over here. So once you get that measured, you just got to pull it tight and whatnot, make sure this is all the way, and then from there you just start tuning your guitar up here. I'll show you when I get to that point. Right now I'm just locking them in place. So do that with the rest of your strings. So what's cool about these is that when you tune, just watch this string here, this one, automatically cuts it for you right about now. Boom, it's gone. And it stays locked because you lock it beforehand and you just tune it up to pitch. So go ahead and just do the rest. Strings automatically get cut, let them fall. Ta-da-da, this is where a string winder really comes in handy. Alright, so now I've plugged in so I can do some tuning. I have them all locked in. This one's getting tuned to D standard. So to trem, best way to tune it up to get it to stabilize fastest is you go with low string, high string, just vice versa. So. Now the next string. Always double check your other tunings again. Now we go to the next strings. So now we pretty much got our strings, like the tension close to where they need to be. So now we keep fine tuning until we got the strings in tune. Then we gotta check where our trem is. Now here is where the problems lie. If you keep your bridge like this, as you can see, it's leaning forward. This will actually make you keep jumping out of tune over and over. So this is something that you do not want. So if this happens, you have to adjust the spring tension in the back and tighten your screws so that the springs in the back pull this back down until it's level. You want this and this side to be parallel with this face of the guitar. So let's go ahead and adjust that. So on here, maybe you don't know what these are for. These here are the trem springs. So these are what you use to adjust the spring tension. So we know that the trem is facing forward, so we need to pull it back down by pulling these forward. So what we do is you tighten it. I always do about maybe a 180 of a turn first, so about 2 half turns. Then I kind of balance it from here to here to here to here with my eyes, just to kind of keep it nice and balanced. You don't want one side to pull more than the other. So now you're gonna retune, and by doing that it puts tension on the springs, so you might be closer to your tuning than you were before. And this is the hardest part. This is what people don't realize you have to do every single time. It's actually sounding pretty nice and we're close. But you have to do this every single time you change your string gauges or springs on the back of your trem. Basically, you want to do this every single time you set up your guitar to stay in tune always. So now if we check here, as you can see, if you check here, you can see the trem is still just a tight bit forward. It's still leaning forward. So what we're going to do is go ahead and tighten these springs again. And this might throw a sharp in the tuning. That's why we bring the string tension down from the tuners, and that'll cut some slack on the trem. It should bring it back nice and level. So I'm going to go ahead and do another half turn on each side. This is where you start doing it really low, because turns will actually really change the tension on this. So now I'm pretty much in tune, so we're close to being balanced. That's what that's saying. But these strings are a little sharp, so that's good. When we lower them, that means it's putting less tension on the strings, meaning it's pulling the trem forward less. Still a little out of tune, which is a good sign actually. Trem, still looking forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crank these another 180 turns, or 180 degrees. So now we're going to do this. We should be sharp, and we are by about 10 cents, 20 I should say. So every time we drop a tuning here, it's putting slack here, meaning the trem is dropping back, which is what we want. That one's really sharp. And always go below the tuning that you need to get to and tune up to it. Kind of still out of tune, but we're getting really close to being parallel here. So you can see that just needs to go back a little bit more. And my assumption is that these springs are still pulling, so this is probably going to be sharp again. Let's retune. We're about 40 cents sharp still. So that means those springs are still kicking in. I think we're going to be right on the adjustment this time. On Floyd Rose it's a bit different because the springs and stuff are different, and you just got to keep working at it until you find that perfect balance. Because honestly, if you have your trem set up perfectly on a Floyd Rose, you don't even need to lock it. We're sounding really good and we're getting really close to being parallel here. So you can see just this side it's a tad bit high, but I'm still betting that this is sharp again. Only a couple cents sharp. That's still enough tension to bring it to loosen to bring that trem back. Okay, so a lot of those were in tune, meaning we're at a balanced point. A lot of people would say that this is balanced and it'd stick there, but not me. I want to be like perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do just one last half turn on each screw, and we should be golden. So there's the sharps that we need. Okay, so when you get really close, one thing I forgot to mention is you gotta use your whammy bar, and you're just gonna go ahead and just go at it, and then that should either set you in a perfect place or let you know if you need to adjust or not. So let me get that really quick. We are back. Okay, so remember, keep this in mind too. We still haven't stretched the strings, and when you do that, it does stretch them to kind of a tight point, and that will pull forward on this again. Pretty much staying in tune. So now we're just gonna really just make this or the trem work. And what you could do is try and pull it into a parallel position if that makes you feel like you're going to be more tuned. So far we haven't lost tuning at all. Actually, we're a little bit sharp. It's a really good sign. So in this case, it actually pulled it into a really nice spot. I'll show you what I mean. And that's how you're going to keep this thing in tune, even if you're using the whammy bar. It's not going to lose tuning on you. But But this is what you want. You want it to be almost, yeah, actually it is. There you go. You can see it at that angle that it is parallel. You want this back end and front end to be perfectly parallel to the face of the guitar. That's how you're going to stay in tune. That's how you're going to get flutters and everything out of your trem, all that kind of stuff. So that's basically your trem setup, and that's the hard work that you need to do on a Floyd's. After you did this and it's staying in pretty much perfect tune. So far I'm only 2 cents sharp. It's probably because I pulled it back. Is I then would just lock my trem and then my nut on a Floyd Rose, and then you're gold. So as far as setup, we'll cover that next. Probably in a further video. This one's set up all the way, so I'm gonna have to wait. And that's it. So that's how you install strings and set the string tension on a tremolo on any guitar. And a setup video will be up someday soon. So let me know if you guys want to see that. We got one last important step too. Grab your string here on the 12th fret. I kind of put my forearm over the bridge and I hold the nut. And you're just going to want to lightly stretch your strings. You'll feel them get looser. They're going to go way flat on you, so don't even worry about that. I usually do about maybe 10 pulls, maybe 20. And then go to the next string. Then you're going to retune and repeat this process 3 or 4 times, and that should be plenty stretching that you'll ever need. Then your guitar strings will never go out of tune. Because most people don't stretch their strings like this, and you don't realize that when you don't, and then you stretch them by bending or doing some sort of thing on your guitar, that's what will throw them out of tune, because your strings aren't already stretched to their fullest little potential, or to their max little stretch, I guess you could say. I don't know, can't think of the words now, but so we're pretty flat. Almost the whole tone flat. So, do it again, 3 or 4 times. Sometimes you'll just feel the string give way, and then you'll know that string's done. If all of a sudden it just goes, and you're like, oh, okay. And what you're also doing is you're pulling it tight against your pegs, definitely if you're using unlocked tuners and you have to wind them. And you're also pulling whatever leftover slack is in the trem by pulling the string back up through. And once they're in tune from there, then there's no slack for them to go out of tune with. And that's the goal when you stretch your strings. It's a crucial part in stringing your guitar, and a lot of people miss it. So, sounds good. You're in tune. Have fun practicing, all that kind of good stuff. Your guitar should rarely give you tuning problems if you follow these steps on any guitars. Even on a cheap one, that's the best way to get your guitar to be set up nice and neat. Once you do this, that's when you start messing with your string action and getting this thing dialed in. Do it when you have the strings in perfect tune, or else you're going to just keep, when you're trying to dial things in, things will move on you, and that's not what you want. So, have a good one. So I think this is one that I had set for like a gent tone.